In Revelation chapter 6, we're going through listening to the first four seals being opened when we get to the fifth. And the fifth seal, the saints call out. And they said, "When are you going to avenge our death?" It's interesting. They cry out from the altar. And when you understand a historical Hebrew altar, the blood of the slain actually drips down and is collected underneath the altar. So, this visual depiction of the saints crying out from underneath the altar, while there's plenty of descriptions outside of the altar of souls in heaven, right? So, these are specific saints that I believe have been sacrificed for their actual belief in Christ, and that's why they died. So now, that's my understanding of who they are, and they're told to wait. They're told to wait for the vengeance on the earth to begin because their number hasn't yet been reached. So that's chapter 6, verse 11, the fifth seal being opened by Jesus, and the number's not yet, the number required has not yet been met. And, you think, oh goodness, there's a required number of Christians to be sacrificed on the altar for their blood to be shed. And once that number is met, God says it's go time. Jesus said only God knows when this is going to start. But God has a specific number, and then it's go time. So let's get in and read this. Revelation chapter 8, verse 1. When he opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about a half an hour. And I saw the seven angels who stand before God, and to them were given seven trumpets. Another angel who had a golden censer came and stood at the altar. He was given much incense to offer, with the prayers of all the saints on the golden altar before the throne. The smoke of the incense, together with the prayers of the saints, went up before God from the angel's hand. Then the angel took the censer, filled it with the fire from the altar, and hurled it on the earth. And there came peals of thunder, rumblings, flashings of lightning, and an earthquake. Then the seven angels who had the seven trumpets prepared to sound them. The first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood, and it was hurled down upon the earth. A third of the earth was burned up, a third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. The second angel sounded his trumpet, and something like a huge mountain all ablaze was thrown into the sea. A third of the sea turned into blood, a third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. The third angel sounded his trumpet, and a great star, blazing like a torch, fell from the sky on a third of the rivers and on the springs of water. The name of the star is Wormwood. A third of the waters turned bitter, and many people died from the waters that had become bitter. The fourth angel sounded his trumpet, and a third of the sun was struck, a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of them turned dark, a third of the day was without light, and also a third of the night. As I watched, I heard an eagle that was flying in midair call out in a loud voice, "Woe, woe, woe," to the inhabitants of the earth, because of the trumpet blast about to be sounded by the other three angels. Okay, so let's break this down. Oh, prayers, incense, smoke presented to God, So the seventh seal is opened, and imagine what everyone saw. Whatever they saw caused a half hour of silence. It is recognized by all the inhabitants of heaven and is noted by John. Imagine when we have a moment of silence, right, for someone who's died, for a great tragedy, a 9/11, right? We have a moment of silence for recognizing, for reflecting, right? So whatever was written in this seventh seal is of grave consequence, and everybody knows it. So all throughout this revelation so far, everybody's talking, everybody's praising God, everybody's singing, everybody's worshiping, right? Not right now. We just opened the seventh seal, and be careful what you pray for, right? So we've gone through, we've obviously met the criteria of the number that needed to be killed, to be slain. So 7 angels are given 7 trumpets. An 8th angel appears, and it's not defined who this angel is, but my imagination, my heart feels like this is actually Jesus. Like, well, we'll go through this and I'll show you why this feels like it's actually God's angel. It's Jesus, and we'll get to this. So imagine the prayers of the saints. Imagine all that all that we've all collectively asked God for, and probably not the toy for Christmas that he's getting right here, right? We can see the stories over the years of atrocities towards Christians. We've seen and heard the stories of the martyrs. In our own lifetime, we know the story of the Christians that are dying in China, and other religion practicing people in China. We've seen different religions kill different people for their beliefs. And imagine the one in prison before you're about to be slain. Do you have the prayer of, please God forgive them, for they know not what they do? And then imagine hearing that prayer from your own child of what one of your other children are about to do to that first child. And we think of the crucifixion of Christ. We think of the martyrs that were burned alive. We think of all the horrific things that man has done to man. And these are all children of God, right? And we know now that it's come to a cumulative point that God's about to react. But now all these prayers are collected. And not by one of the 7 angels. This is a special angel. Let's keep moving on. So before the prayers are collected, what is imagine you have to give the news to God, right? The time's come. It's now go time. And this whole time God has sat on his throne. He's witnessed everything that's going on. He's just watching, not doing anything. And Jesus or someone in heaven has told the saints to be patient. The number has not yet been completed of everybody who needs to pass away. So apparently this number's been met, and it's time to unleash the great lion, right? And apparently the way you do that is you have to collectively open all of the old wounds, right? Jesus needs to evict everybody off of earth. He needs to collect as many more souls back for God as is possible, but earth has been deemed unsalvageable. The number of martyrs that was required has been completed. Now we got to go give this news to God that it's time to engage. And they don't need him to leave the throne. They just need him to think it, right? So what do they got to do? They're going to give him the bad news. And if you can have empathy, I'm thinking this is Jesus giving the bad news to God, because earlier in one of our earlier readings, it was who's worthy to open this scroll. Who's got the wherewithal and the justification and all of that to go offer up this horrible news. Now, imagine you're that entity that's going to go provide this news, this bad news collectively. God's heard all these prayers, but now we're going to put them all together, all the news. We're going to rehash everything. We're going to, all the bad stuff, we're going to send God a reminder. No one wants to do that. So, and I'm laughing because I have empathy for the person that's going to go up and do that. And, if it's Jesus, maybe he'd rather have been on the cross one more time than to have to do this job. So he's like, I need much incense. I have to open these old wounds. I'm going to be the bearer of bad news. And I want a lot of incense before I put this up to God, because this is going to hurt him, right? This is truly, truly going to deeply impact God, and we know that. But it's time. It's time to act, and God is going to be given a reminder here of everything that's gone on and the request of the saints. Okay, so God has presented this smoke, and it's got all the stuff in it, right? All the way down to that prayer Jesus said, God forgive them, for they know not what they do. But imagine the other prayers that have been lifted up by every martyr that's ever died, right? Knowing their death is coming. And what are we called to do? To be strong even when we know it's coming, to witness to those that are about to do it to us. All of those prayers are now coming up, and he's breathing it in, and his wrath is welling up, and the wrath is going to be exercised, and it's a thing. It's an entity that's being energized in heaven, and it's being consumed into this censer, and this censer is filling. Imagine a stick of dynamite. The fuse is lit as his energy from this experience is being felt and imagined. And God imagines things, says things, and they come into existence. So now you've got this. You've presented this to God. His reaction is coming down. The person holding this censer is collecting it, and he collects the fire from the altar, right? And you can imagine that's the fire of God. It's all now collected in this censer. The fuse is lit. Here we go. So in this last part of this first section of chapter 8, we're in verse 5. He's filled his censer with the fire from the altar. He's hurling it down at earth. Peals of thunder, rumblings, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake. This is it. This is when it all starts, guys. If you ever wanted to know when it all started, when the Eviction notice. Our judgment has been made. Mankind's judgment here on earth. Our notice to get out. Population reduction. We hear of how mankind plans its own population reduction, right? This is real population reduction. The torment that's going to be felt through these next portions. Punishment's flowing from heaven. The stick of dynamite was lit in heaven, and it's hurled to earth, and here it comes. Whew. You ready for the trumpets? So this first trumpet comes down, hail and fire mixed with blood. It's hurled down on the earth, and a third of all of earth is burned up. Every tree, every blade of grass, everything that can be burned with fire is burned. We know that's not the Middle East. If you wanted to clearly find a section of a third of the earth, you could point out the Americas, North and South, would be a good candidate, as it doesn't really seem to play a battleground in the end times. I guess it could be China, Southeast Asia, but you're going to have to get pretty far over into the Middle East, or at least close to it, to take out a third of the earth. But I guess it could be that. So we're not really told here who the third of the earth is, but it looks like there's a 50-50 shot. Maybe it's a better than 50-50 shot that the Americas are the third that's gone. So that's probably more than most of the speculation. So then we get to the second trumpet, the burning mountain that hits the ocean, where a third of all ships are destroyed, a third of all the sea life is gone. And we look at this and go, the eviction notice is being served and executed. So we're about to get into the third trumpet and see where we're headed. So the third trumpet sounds, and its name is Wormwood. It falls like a great star, blazing torch, and it makes a third of the fresh water bitter. Many people die from drinking it. So interesting here, wormwood in homeopathy is used in very small doses, is a anti-inflammation, anti-parasitic compound that actually heals the body in small doses, but in excess is super toxic. So many will die from this. So we just lost a third of the earth. Now we're going to have wormwood, the starfall, and it's going to make a third of the waters, I guess, that weren't burned up. We're going to have a third of the waters made bitter, and many will die from it. So that's our third trumpet. Let's see what our fourth one has. As we come to the end of chapter 8, we're going to go through verse 12 and 13. So verse 12 is the fourth angel. And remember, we had the four horsemen that came out, the four horsemen with riders. And, I gave you my thoughts on those. But again, it's 4 of 7. And then we'll have the next 3 coming up. But this fourth one seems like it would be a natural reaction to the fire being thrown down. A third of the world being burned up is going to throw a ton of smoke into the atmosphere, right? We've often heard that a volcano will throw up a tremendous ash cloud. the meteor that's going to hit the Earth is going to throw up a tremendous cloud. So I don't know if this fourth trumpet is just announcing the actual what's going to happen based on these other occurrences, but we have, a meteor that hits the water. We have the one that hits the Earth. We have a third of the planet burned up. There's going to be atmospheric debris for a long time, and so I guess whether it's that plus God's going to do something to the sun and moon. I'm not quite sure, but it does seem like the effect of the first three trumpets are going to cause the fourth trumpet. And so a long winter's coming. The earth is going to experience cooling. Everything, well, so we understand, right? You block out the sun, and that's a winter, whether it's winter time or not. You block out a third of the sun, and we know that as January, February around here. And so I imagine that's going to bring about a unnatural winter. And there's that warning that you better hope this doesn't happen during the winter when your days are already shortened. So anyway, just a little bit of reaction to the sun and moon. A third of its brightness going away, or a third of the time that it's going to be shining is going away. But I'm going with it's a third of the radiation from the sun, the light from the moon, same thing, a third of that being reduced. And then we've got finally in the end of verse 8 the eagle's warning. Woe, 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 for the next three blasts are coming. Like half the people on earth have probably perished by this time. Many are sick because of the poisoned water, or bitter water, I should say. And it's about to get bad. It sounds pretty bad right now. I guess this goes all the way back to the beginning when this seventh seal is opened. There was silence in heaven for a half an hour. I guess now that we've gone through it, we're seeing what the people in heaven saw. And if you could have empathy for what we just studied, you can imagine what you're about to witness. You might have a moment of silence that could exceed a half an hour. So tremendous death, devastation. The earth is, gonna hit a permanent change for a season, right? So now we're going to see what the next three blasts are in chapter 9. I guess we'll kick that off tomorrow. Have a great day. I hope you've enjoyed this study of Revelation chapter 8. I've given you my thoughts, and again, I ask that each one of you go and read this yourselves and see what you come up with. You might apply this against today's news. You might look at it against some of the meteors. You might talk to my beagle who just ran through the room. But, go read this yourself. See what you come up with. And the Holy Spirit will give you a message. You go in and read this. Have a great day.